What's up, everyone? Goosey and the Higsaw welcome you to the Black and Gold. This is HiBruiNation, your unofficial home of the Boston Bruins. We got a good show for you guys tonight. Did you really like that one? Did you really like that one, the Higsaw?
Yeah, I made it a point to try to not read them, so that way it just gets hit fresh every time.
Oh yeah. I gotta write these down, otherwise I'm gonna forget them. You know, if it helps, I'll actually write them down in like my iPhone, like my notes app, and then that way you just won't see them in like our show rundown or anything like that. It'll just be a true surprise. Like I'll just write insert.
I like to
Higgy's
imagine
name
that you
here.
just I'm just gonna picture you waking up like in a cold sweat at 2 a.m., just like having an epiphany of which one comes next, and just like I gotta write this down.
Dude, this one took me a while. Like they're starting to take me a little while. I was trying to figure something out,
Starting to
and
scrape the bottom of the barrel.
I genuinely think I was sitting at my desk staring at a blank like screen and just being like, what's his name gonna be? That's how devoted I am, I guess, to this bit. So I mean,
That was a
take
good
it-
one. I'll give you credit. I'd say that's got to be at least top what, 5, top 3.
top 5 out of the 5 that I've done. Yeah, like last week you
Yeah,
were
hey.
in your. Yeah, I mean, last week you were King Higgy the Eighth. So I mean, I was going to ask you about your millions of wives. But unfortunately, yeah, you
In this
couldn't make it,
economy?
huh? In
I
this
said in
economy,
this economy?
I don't know. Go down to Utah. They got some fun stuff going on down there. You know, Mormons, man. We got a good show for everyone tonight. We got some things that have been plaguing the Boston Bruins. Interest in Geeky and Frederick. That some teams have called upon. Best and worst case scenarios for the team this year. But this is the first show of the new year. So welcome to 2025, everybody. And let's start off with some news. Some good news was that we signed Mark Kostelic to a 3-year basically a $1.6 million deal. I'm just going to round up. I think the real figure is like 1.5, blah, 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 something, right? Yeah, good signing.
5, 6, 7, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, it was like something good, but it's a good deal, I think, for him. We can talk about that a little bit, and we can start with that. I think he's showing what it means to be a Bruin. So good signing.
Yeah, I think it's a great signing. I think it could be a good signing both for the player and the team. Obviously, he gets a little bit of a bump and gets a little bit of stability with the 3-year term. And honestly, I think he's been great since he came here. I think it was tough coming in. It's like he was the quote unquote the piece that came back for Linus Ullmark, which was a tough badge to wear. But the guy's been everything you could hope that a fourth line center would be on this team. I think he's third in the league in hits this year. Adding in the fact that, like, I don't know if you watched earlier today in this game, it's just like he's sneaky, sets people up, makes dishes, puts a few goals home. It's like he's been great. He's the 7th player type guy that you expect to see on the Bruins. He's been a perfect fit.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He's been a key pivotal piece in the fourth line. You might even argue that he could play up to the third line center spot, which is, again, it's been a revolving door, and we talked about it. But they definitely signed him first. They prioritized him. They like the way he's played, and he's played very well. So I mean, he's definitely earned that. And so I'm hoping that over the next 3 years he continues to progress. He's also only 25, so there's a lot of good things to look for there. So a lot of good things.
I can't wait to get into how bad that third line has been.
I think it's been bad because it's been a revolving door, but we'll get to that. Second news is Arthur Kaleyev was waived today by the Los Angeles Kings. He's a left-handed shooter, 6'2", 210. I only bring that up because I feel like he fits the Bruins very well, and we can kind of get into that and whether or not they pursue him. I personally think that they should. It's for free, the same way you pick up Oliver Wahlstrom. Things to consider, right? These are just things that you should consider, especially you have a plethora of centers and right wingers, but you don't have left wingers. What do you think?
I think it's kind of back to the same mentality surrounding the Wahlstrom thing, where it's just like the gamble that you're taking for basically no risk at that point. I'm not too privy on what his contract actually is, but he's only 23, so I can't imagine he's making a whole hell of a lot. So it really shouldn't impact what you'd have for like deadline space or anything like that. But yeah, you have no wing depth really on either side. That's any good. So if you're not going to give time to your own prospects down in Providence, why not give yourself another look? Because again, after putting up 2 goals across 2 games, like your offense needs help.
It also opens the door to allow you to get rid of Morgan Geeky or Trent Frederick. It does open that gate a little bit, because you could effectively have in a world that exists, Marchand, Lindholm, Wallstrom, Zaka, Coyle, Pasta, Kalev, Geeky, Braz, and then Beecher, Kostelik, and Kepke. So there are worlds that exist where you can kind of redefine and retool that third line, which is where I think the team kind of needs to go right now. But I'm glad that we agree that the Bruins, at least when it's for free, he makes $800,000+. Like he
Yeah, it's
definitely
like
makes
which
less than
prorated is going to be like nothing.
Yeah, so whatever, like you know what I mean. And it's
Isn't
for
it?
free. He's 23.
Isn't it funny? Like, when do you ever in the past see multiple teams basically not giving up? Because obviously, I'm sure they're hoping he's going to clear, but giving up on multiple sort of highly drafted offensive prospects who are still under 25. Like, I feel like you just don't see this, and now we've got a couple of them within a few weeks of each other, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you saw, I think Jesse Puyarvi got waived. You
Yeah,
saw
exactly.
Wallstrom got waived. I mean, eventually claimed by Boston. You see Kalev. Kalev was a second round pick. And to my choice, but again, a big guy. He fits the Bruins narrative pretty well. He had a good rookie season with the Kings. It's not like I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think he's fitting the scheme that the Kings are looking for. But I think he reminds me similar of like another Justin Brazeau, who scored his 10th goal of the season tonight against the New York Islanders. That game is currently going on. So yeah, I think when you can get players like that for free and then they turn out to work well, it works all the way out in your favor. I mean, look at the risk that they took with Max Jones, right? That didn't work out. You can bury his contract down in Providence without any penalty because it's less than $1.5 million. Apparently, they can do that. I didn't know that. So
That one's wild because like that you literally went out and bought and signed this guy, paid for this guy, and then it's almost immediately they were just like, yeah, this ain't it. And it's just like, well, so what did you see to begin with? Like, how did how did you miss that one that bad? Obviously, not that you expected him to come light the world on fire, but it's like this guy can't even get a shake. Like he's that useless to you.
size. They wanted size. They knew that. They knew that was a problem. Like, going into the playoffs last year, they knew that they were not a sizable team. But with size, you sacrifice some speed and you get burned. And they have been getting burned. But I think Don Sweeney never really focused on the type of player he was getting. He only cared about getting the player that was, big and mean. And it didn't work out in their favor. I still think they hit on Elias Lindholm. I think he'll eventually find his way once all this line juggling stops and you get yourself a coach that actually does well. But until then, I think adding like a player like Wallstrom, again, not bad. Adding, if they do end up adding a player like Kalev, not bad. I'll take it because it doesn't seem like you're going to call up Patra. You're not going to call up Lysell. You're not going to call up Markulov. You're going to stick with Mark McLaughlin. Like, okay. So when a player like this falls on your lap, take it. I understand Jesse Puyarvi because he has been known to be a cancer in the locker room, but a guy like Arthur Kaleyev, I'm willing to take an opportunity on him, willing to take a chance on him. With that, because we talked about the third line, let's get into the bear down breakdown. Okay, so for this week in the Bear Down Breakdown, we have a couple topics as previously mentioned. We're going to go over what we think is plaguing the Boston Bruins. Apparently, there's been some interest in Geeky and Frederick from other teams, and what we think some of our best and worst case scenarios are for the team this year. And then after that, we'll go into our Big Bad I'm sorry, not our Big Bad Bruin. We'll talk about our weekly recaps, give you guys an update on our atrocious week this week for the in-season game predictions that all of us had. So, oh man, it was awful. But let's start with the plagues of the Boston Bruins. And what better to start with than the third line conundrum? Higgy, take it away because you seemed very passionate.
Yeah, until the Toronto game, I was ready to file a missing persons report for Trent Frederick. I know that there's a man that was wearing number 11 for the past, I don't know, 10 games, but you can't convince me that was an NHL player. I don't know if I've ever seen it's like the dude's in a contract year. Like, how are you this invisible? And it's so frustrating with him as a whole because you're just waiting for him to take that other step and, like, I don't know, grow into being a full-time NHLer. And I feel like you've not gotten anything different from him than from when he entered the league. And especially at a time where there's so much leash for him to be able to make an impact, grow his role, and become a fixture. Like, if he had himself even just a halfway decent year this year on a team that desperately needs offense, like, he could have broken the bank. Like, you have teams like calling left and right saying that they want to trade for him. They want, like, there's interest there. It's just like if he had himself a halfway decent season, he would have been probably what, I don't know, something stupid like 6.5. But I think, like, the third line, like, he should be a fixture on that line. That should be his line. And I think it sort of lives and dies with him because every other piece has sort of been an in and out. You got Brazeau playing there. You've had Geeky playing there a little bit. You got Wallstrom playing. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, he's been the one quasi-constant, as constant as you can say in the Bruins lineup because, you know, nobody's ever a constant on any line. But yeah, it's just they need that guy, and he's just absolutely been incapable of being any sort of consistent.
At least not this year. I will say this, though, since his start of his career in 2018, 2019, he played 15 games where he got 0 points. And then in 2019, 2020, he also played 2 games, got 0 points. He started to pick it up in the 2020, 2021 season where he played 42 games, got 5 points. Then the next season, he got 18 points in 60, 31 and 79 after that, 40 and 82 after that. And this year, he's played 41 and he only has 12 points. So he's not on pace. But if you look at the rest of the team, and you know, I understand a lot of the criticisms behind Trent Frederick, I really do, but I think we also need to assess and be fair and be real that the criticisms need to be up and down the Bruins lineup as a whole. But it's easy to look at a guy like Trent Frederick, who you've seen steadily progress, right? You could argue that over his NHL career. I don't want to say he hasn't given you anything new, because he has over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years, that he's getting better. But right now, I think with the coaching change, I think that impacted him negatively. I think with the constant line juggling, that is still a huge part of that third line, because there's been no consistency on that line at all. It impacts a player's ability to kind of read a situation and improve, because you don't have the line mates, you know, consistently enough to be like, okay, this is how we're going to play. This is how we're going to do it. They're starting to play the matchup game, which I think is a huge flaw in the system. You know what I mean?
Especially when it's not like you have great pieces to mix and match anyway.
Yeah, like Brazeau is a middle six player. I think at best he's a second line right wing. That's at his very best. I think at his worst, he belongs on the third line right wing. I think that's where he belongs. I think Trent is more of a winger, less of a center at this point in time. But it's about filling in that third line, and the Bruins have not done that. And I believe that's actually impacted the rest of the lines. The fourth line has been pretty solid.
100%.
You can't expect the fourth line to score every night, every game like they were in the beginning of the season. But, you know, when you have all these revolving doors and all these positions in the lineup, you know, it impacts a player like Frederick, but it also impacts everybody else. I can't speak English today.
It's been a long week. You're all right. Let's also not forget, though. So, like you were just saying about playing the matchups, if you're a coach of another team, right, and you've seen the way that this third line's been going, you are now able to game plan and say, okay, we really don't need to prioritize the matchups against this third line, which means that we can just hammer the top lines. So them being completely ineffective means that it's even easier for other teams to neutralize the Pasta line or the Lindholm line. You know what I mean? So it's just like when you don't need to focus on a line because they basically take themselves out of the equation, that just makes the job that much easier for other teams. And I think my thing with Frederick isn't like, it's not just the points. He's always been a streaky scorer. He gets them in bunches. He'll go quiet. But the thing with him that drives me nuts is that for him, being quiet is like basically being invisible. Like he'll have games like the Toronto game where he's an absolute force. He's buzzing everywhere. He's hitting everybody. He's getting to the front of the net. And then he'll have games where it looks like he's not even skating. You know what I mean? Like I have plenty of patience for guys that maybe don't get on the score sheet every night, but show up and make an impact and continue to bring the same energy and the same type of play that you get from them on any given night. And that's sort of been something that you just don't really see from him. It's like he'll have a week where he's unreal, and then you'll have a week where it's just like, literally, where is this guy? So it's like I don't care if he, obviously I care if he scores, but that's not my main. Like my third line center doesn't need to lead the team in scoring, but he does need to be a nuisance.
He needs
Like
to be a
I
presence.
need you to be out there. Yeah, you need to make an impact. You can pick whichever way you want to impact the game, but you need to be able to make an impact consistently.
And I think that's where his critiques are absolutely fair, because he's not hitting, I don't think, nearly as much. You don't see him fighting nearly as much as he is. Like maybe because Kostelic is taking over that role, but I think his critique, like I said, I think his critiques are fair. I don't know if he stays here past the trade deadline. I really don't. I mean, I could give you a million things of what I would do to help improve him. I mean, Trent, Poitras, and Geeky last year was a phenomenal line. They take that away, and a lot of people are saying, well, Poitras being down in the AHL right now is really good for him. And I'm just like, I think the only justification why Poitras is down in the AHL is because they want him to build muscle. I think they realize he is still a little small for where they probably want him to be, and I think it's just ramping him up to that kind of level of play. But last year you saw it. He is an NHL ready guy. I don't think it's a development piece in the way that people are thinking. I think it is purely physical. Because otherwise, look at Lysell. We know Lysel's talented. We know that, but I don't think Lysel's big enough. And if you look at the way the current team structure is made, they're not going for fast, streaky scores. They're going for bigger bodied individuals. So I think
which
that
you could
plays
argue
into it.
that maybe they should probably change that a little bit.
They should also change their entire coaching staff, but I think that's another thing that's been plaguing the Boston Bruins is the lack of change in the coaching staff. You fire Jim Montgomery, you elevate Joe Sacco to head coach. The rest of the coaching staff, I don't think has changed since they hired Bruce Cassidy. I don't know if Bruce even brought in anybody else. That he brought in Chris Kelly, because Chris Kelly wasn't part of the coaching staff with Claude Julien. Obviously, he was a player for him, but I don't think there was much change. I mean, Joe Sacco's been on the team for 14 years, so I don't think it was just the head coach. I think it's the entire coaching staff at this point, because look at where we are with the power play and the penalty kill. Almost, we're in the bottom half for
and it's funny you bring that up, because the power play structure that we're using has been the exact same across multiple coaches now, and it hasn't been very good in 4+ years, something like that. Like even when the metrics were solid and like the conversion, or they were at like a decent percentage, like it has never looked effective. And basically once you lost Bergeron, it's completely cooked. It's like you don't have the horses to play that method. Like they're playing the basically the guy down on the goal line. There's nobody good enough on this team to play that role. And then you lost the best option you had on the bumper, and nobody here that we still have is good enough to fill that role. So it's like I don't know why you got to keep trotting out the same system.
Do you play NHL, Higgy? Like any of the Chell games? Like any?
I
like
don't
on Xbox?
actually.
You don't? Have you ever?
2022, I think. Yeah, 2022, I think was the last one I bought.
Okay, because you know how you can adjust, like your system, right? Like you can do like a 1-3-1, a 3-2, or 2-3. Yeah, and things like that. So I started a franchise mode in with the Boston Bruins just because I wanted to see if I could fix this godforsaken situation. By the way, in NHL 25, they have like no movement clauses that actually do impact it, and I've been trying to get rid of Nikita Zadorov for the past 3 seasons, and he finally waived his thing after me telling him he sucks. No, it was
My
just because I
friend
was
did the
trying to
exact
get
same
better.
thing.
Yeah, no, I ended up fixing it like 3 seasons later. Like we went on and we won a cup, but like whatever. But it was funny because when I was adjusting the system, because I also had to fire Jim Montgomery, but when I looked at the system, everything was like full defensive, and and I started chuckling to myself, like, no, it's not. They're lying to themselves. Like he
I
didn't
say,
play this way. Like, by the way, my
yeah,
power
I
play
say
in that game was also the worst.
well, it's yeah, I don't know. And like this isn't I'm a fan of his, but like McAvoy's not a very good power play quarterback, which
Nope.
certainly isn't helping them. But yeah, I hate our power play.
It it's someone I was on Twitter and someone kind of brought it up. So that's another plague of the Boston Bruins. And I know we've talked about it several times, but we'll specifically focus on the power play because it is 31st in the league. Or if not that 30th. And if not that 32nd. But I really do I'm just trying to give myself some hope that we're at 30th and not at the bell bottom at least. And someone had said that you gotta we shouldn't be anxiously awaiting Hampus Lindholm to return to quarterback this power play. You and I was listening to Ty Anderson and a few others, and they've said that hey, McAvoy's best when he's shooting and he's not dishing it off, and he's not. They've criticized him, and I would actually tend to agree with this that he is not a very fast thinker. Like he won't one touch the puck to somebody else. Like, you know what I mean? He's not a
Yeah,
bumper.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, he doesn't. I don't think he has the hockey sense for a power play. Defensively, I think he's been fine. I just think offensively and on the power play, he's not living up to what we need him to be. And there's been speculation that, oh, is this because Lindholm is out and we have a guy like Jordan Osterley, or we have those pairings also being juggled? I'm like, I don't think that's it. I don't think he feels like he needs to cover the defensive load for anybody else because Osterley's been fine. Lowry has been fine when paired with him. Zadorov's been fine when paired with him. I don't think it's that.
No.
I'm gonna
So
say it.
yep, no. Weirdly, I think the best stretch that McAvoy had was those like few games that they paired him with Osterley. I think that you got rid of a guy in Grizzlick, and I by no means did I care that we got rid of Grizzlick. I had seen enough,
I do now.
but they played a very compatible style together. And now you've just stuck him with guys that don't play even close to a similar style, and he's not been the same since. So it's like you can see that there's a disconnect. I mean, fucking him and Zadorov ran into each other the other night in like open ice. It's like what is going on? So it's just like they're shuffling the lines. He's playing with people that he doesn't seem to mesh well with. And normally you'd say, "Oh, he's your number one guy. He should be able to play with anybody." Well,
No, that's not the
he
case.
just can't. Maybe he just meshes better with certain types of players. But you're not putting him with those certain types of players. I hate the McAvoy to Zadorov thing.
Oh,
And
so
they
don't I.
split that up today. They moved Zadorov down and put yeah.
I shouldn't. I said they do fine together, right? They don't like they're not these moving pieces, right? It's not going to move the needle for me, like Zadorov
Yeah.
being on the top line. But I think it's fine with certain matchups. I'm not going to say like that should be your definitive pair. Lowry McAvoy has been a good one. Osterley, and people have also criticized Lowry too, and it's fair to do so. He is having a sophomore slump. You
Mhm.
kind of expect that out of like these 23, 24-year-olds that are coming up in the league. I'm willing to give Lowry the benefit of that doubt to grow and to develop. I mean, like, you know what I mean? What if Patra was up
100%.
here and he had a sophomore slump? Are you going to start saying trade him? No. You're going to got to recognize that this is his second year in the big leagues, and it's gonna take some time. Look at Johnny Beecher. People are criticizing him too. It's his second year, but Johnny Beecher's also not doing that bad. Like for the people that are in their sophomore years, I'm not going to really complain much about. I think they're doing okay.
Yep. And I say, low rise a guy you absolutely have to have time for. It's like if you're not willing to be patient, let that guy fuck up and find his way. Then what else are you gonna do? Then you can't also be talking out of the other side of your mouth saying, "Oh, where's Lysell?" It's like no. You let that guy find his way, and you take some of the warts that come with it, because clearly he has NHL caliber vision, talents, puck moving ability. He'll figure it out. Like he belongs here. It's on the coaches to help him sort of bridge those gaps and plug some of those holes that you see, like the decision making and the he loves just fumbling the puck at the blue line. But I say that's stuff that'll come with a bit of experience. But
that's going to be my. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
That's going to be my last plague is the turnovers. They're at the most inopportune moment. They're never a turnover when they can reliably get back, or it's never. I don't want to say there's ever a good turnover, but there's better situational turnovers. Not when you're flinging it across, from board to board in front of your goaltender. It gets picked off, and then the opposing team snipes it through your goalie. That's not a good turnover. You know what I mean? No turnover is good, but that's definitely not a great one. The fumbling at the blue line by the defense, not even just Lowry, it's Carlo, McAvoy, Zadora. They're all doing it. Is the puck just bouncing on them?
It's so constant.
Like, it's just, are they closing the toe of their blade too much and it's hopping over? Is it far too open? I don't even know where to begin to tell you, but it's uncharacteristic. Yeah, uncharacteristic for this team.
English is hard.
English is hard. There are other harder languages.
Yeah, but not for stupid Americans.
No, I speak French, but most of the French words I speak are 4 letters. I'm just glad I haven't really said much of it tonight, but it's so frustrating to watch a team that historically has moved the puck pretty well. And then I feel like Matt Grzelcyk cursed them coming out of because it's a lot of it's in the breakout. They can't get it out. So turnovers have been plaguing them. The special teams have been plaguing them. The lack of top 9 production, because the fourth line has done their job. The defense is not shooting enough. And the coaches. I wouldn't be surprised if I don't think Joe Sacco is going to be the head coach next year. There's no way. And people are, I think, praising him more than I think he deserves. Because they'll have, and if you watched it too, they'll have a stretch of a good game, have 2 bad ones, have 2 good ones, and it's like this vicious cycle that they're enigmatic on how they perform. And I think part of it is on the coaches.
Yeah, this entire season's been a roller coaster.
Yeah, and I don't like it.
No, it's pretty miserable, actually. It's like as soon as you start to get a little bit of hope, you're like, oh, we're turning a corner. We're figuring it out. It's like you go and lay an absolute dud. So it has to be one of the more frustrating Bruins teams that we've watched in quite some time, because like they have enough talent that you hold expectations for them, but they constantly kind of revert, where it's just like you don't really know what they are or what to expect. And I think we're literally at the halfway point of the season now. Like I think the expectation and what you've come to expect from this team is that they're just okay. They're just okay. They have the ability on any given night to be a very good team and to match up with the best in the league, but they're also just as likely to absolutely just not show up.
Yeah, it should have been better.
And I do think you're right that there's certainly part of that can be coaching. Also, I think a fair part of it has to be roster construction too, because like we were saying, you have way too many guys that are being asked to punch well above their weight class in this lineup, and there's only so much coaching up you can do if that's the case. Like if you're asking Brazeau and Geeky to be the equivalent to a Marner or a Nylander, it's just like, well, that's just not going to happen in maybe in NHL on easy sim mode, maybe, but It's like
Yeah.
that's you
Even on
can't
easy sim mode,
overcome
they're
that.
only scoring 20 goals. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Even on
yeah.
easy
It's like
sim mode, they're not scoring
yeah,
like those kind of numbers that you would expect out of a guy like Nylander, Matthews, and
or even just like a
Ovechkin or
replacement level top 6 player. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, let's be honest. Like, if your team is good, players like Zaka would be second line. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's just slotted a tier off, basically. So it's
Yep,
like you have
I
quality
couldn't
pieces,
disagree.
but you lack the high end quality that would have all of these other pieces fall into place where they belong.
I think Ty said it best too, because again, I listened to his show on Saturdays, and he basically said that if you don't see these players in your future, trade them. Call up the
Pretty
kids,
much, yeah.
give them an opportunity. And because he had basically said, and I agree with this, and I think we've all said it here too, and said that what is gating Patra, Lysell, and Merkulov up here? If you're willing to give these players such long leashes like Kepke, and I'm not saying Kepke's played poorly, but if you're willing to give players like Frederick long leashes, Geeky long leashes against these top touted prospects, where do you see yourself? And he brought up a good point, and I like I said, I tend to agree with that. I think it's a good point to be made, because I want to see the kids play. Lysell's 21. Normally by now he's here for a first round pick. You know what I mean? He's here.
I mean,
He's not.
Merkelov's 24. Like, it's a
Yeah.
grown ass man. It's not even a
Yeah.
prospect anymore.
Yeah. No. Well,
So
technically, because I think he's played less than 25 NHL games, he would still.
no,
It's
I
a
know,
weird
but
thing. If we're gonna go by the real definition, it's a real strange thing. But by all intents and purposes, he's not a prospect. That is a
we're
grown
going by
ass
Kyle's
man.
definition. Kyle has declared him not a prospect. He's a grown ass man.
We are going by the Higsaw definition.
Yep. Yep.
Oh,
But
I
like
have your name.
back to what
I have your
back
name
to
for
what
next week.
back to what
I
you're
have him
saying
already.
about Kaleyev. It's like, sure, you want to bring in another option, but also then like we have the discussion of, well, what's gating these guys? So it's just like you'd really rather go take another team's castaways than play your own players. So either you don't want to bring them up because you think this is a lost season, or you think they suck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, are you gating them yourselves? Like, why is Wallstrom here if Lysell or Merkulov can play? Like, why do you want to bring in a retread that didn't have it elsewhere over these guys? Like, that kind of concerns me about how they view their own like talents. You know what I mean? Like, and the cupboard's pretty bare. Like, we don't have that much to pick from. So if Lysell and Merkulov don't have it, you really have nothing. I think we're in agreement that Patra is a player. He's going to be an NHL player. He has talent. He's already shown that he can play at this level. If they want to call it this year his year to sort of really work and develop and play big minutes down there, then so be it. He is still 20. But the other two, like, the clock's ticking.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And it's not like when Lysell was called up, and Vogel and I talked about it last week. It's not like he had a bad game, right? So it's not like he had a bad game.
No, he's fine.
So I think, yeah, and Vogel had a good point. He thought it was a showcase. It's a good point to bring up. I don't know if it was that, because it really wasn't much of a showcase. So it is what it is, right? We're gonna have to see where it all goes and where it comes from here. But I tend to agree with Ty. I actually he brings up many good points, and so that was just one thing I wanted to bring up. But to further foster that point on, if you don't see them in their long-term plans, get rid of them, and that goes along the lines of maximize your damn value. So get it, like, you know what I mean? Like, you just go after it.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
because I was arguing with someone, and I said you can easily get a first round pick for Trent Frederick. Easy. I think you can, because I brought up Sean Walker, and I know Sean Walker's a defenseman and this, that, the other thing, but I'm like, centers hold a ton of value in the league, especially at a depth, and especially at an energy guy like Frederick. And Frederick is also 5 years younger. You can
Yeah.
get a first round pick for Trent Frederick, especially if Sean Walker got you a conditional first round pick and something additional on top of that. So I'll take that, and you can keep everything else. So I don't know what you want to go from there, but let's get into this week. Let's talk about this week. Currently, the New York Islanders game is going on. It's in overtime. So unfortunately, we couldn't adjust the recording time for the schedule, but the Bruins went 0-3 on the road trip to Washington, 3-1 loss. New York Rangers, 2-1 loss. That was self-inflicted, which really pissed me off. Toronto, 6-4, another self-inflicted loss. I would say 2 out of the 3 away games, self-inflicted. No question.
Yeah. And I think back to the the frustration. I didn't think the Capitals or Rangers games were really all that poor showing. But it was just another example of this team not being able to finish. You had plenty of opportunities, plenty of shots, plenty of chances, and zero finish in both games. And in both games, all it took was a few stupid mistakes that the other team capitalized on. You notice like every team capitalizes on your mistakes, and you don't capitalize on any of the opponent's mistakes.
I don't think they capitalized on one mistake that the other team has made this year. I really don't think they have.
Not, or at least certainly not with any regularity.
So we can do it that way. We will, right? Yeah. I think the game that really angered me the most, because I expected Washington with Ovechkin back to win, right? I expected that. I think it was a good response by Washington. A team that is better than you, and they certainly played like it. That New York game really angered me, because just the way Swayman played, the way the team played, the way they couldn't finish. And I'm going to give a ton of credit to Jonathan Quick, dude.
He was so good in that game.
He was so damn good. Like that was it wasn't even I'm having a hard time finding the words to describe how clinical that was that he did. And I'm a huge Jonathan Quick fan. I loved him in 2012. I loved him in 2014. When they won the cup with the Kings. Hard to really hate Jonathan Quick. So good for him for getting the win, but honestly, fuck New York whenever I can say it, because we're from Boston. I feel like that's just innate in our blood. It's like Montreal Canadiens fans saying fuck Boston. It's what you got to do, whether you mean it or not. Any word on that, God?
Fuck the Habs.
We always mean it.
Okay, he always means it. Thank you, God. That was our Lord and Savior, Rick. Our lovely producer, Rick. And then
be good, my sons.
Be good. Be good. Depends on how the rest of the season goes.
Yeah.
And then Toronto. Good for Matthew Nye. Make that an 0-4 week for the boys.
Fucking
in
team.
Overtime.
This fucking team
is crazy.
That is
Bruins
so
lose
on brand.
5-4.
5-4 in OT.
Awful.
They did it just in time. They knew what segment we were on.
Well, at least they got 1 point out of it. They got 1 point.
Yeah, they can take the point and shove it.
Yep. Hey, such is the way. We'll have plenty of time to get into that too. Toronto, Matthew Nyes gets his first hat trick ever. Congratulations to him. Austin Matthews puts the nail in the coffin. I believe Marner also had a goal that would have thought to be put the nail in the coffin, but the Bruins battled back, and they were constantly 1 goal down that game. It was just, painful to watch. I thought this was a week that the Bruins could have really shined. They could have really done better. They could have showed that they were willing to compete, and they just kind of fumbled the bag. And obviously tonight they lose 5-4 in overtime to the New York OT Merchants, which is where they get it. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Kyle?
I think that even worse was the fact that the first 2 games, it was all offensive struggles. They couldn't break through. Team defense okay. Effort was there. Toronto, they finally break through. They get some offense going, and the defense just forgets what planet they're on and just completely deviates from what was working well for the last 2 games. It's like you can't even just put one game together. You can't have both things going at the same time. It's like as soon as one thing's working, the other falls off. It's just like so frustrating. And then with this game tonight, it's like, again, fine effort. It's like they were in it, and then a couple of stupid mistakes, and you let the Islanders creep ahead. Now you're fighting from behind again with a team that really doesn't have the horses to be fighting from behind. But then you gap it up, and it's like they just find ways to lose. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like for years we were just like waiting on this team to always, like, no matter what, you were like, the Bruins they'll pull through, or they have something in the bag. And it's like now it's the opposite, where you're just waiting for, like, how are they going to lose this? Which is just so frustrating.
It's ironic, isn't it?
And
last night with Toronto, the offense shows up, defense falls apart. Tonight with the Islanders, sure, the Islanders were up, 2-1, but you want to know what? We still scored 4 goals. They had to score 4. Admittedly, I didn't think Korpisalo in the first goal or 2 didn't look great. I think the second one he could have had.
Yep.
But again, the defense doesn't do enough. It's frustrating to watch, and I think that's something that they're going to need to hash out. An 0-4 week, well, an 0-3-1 week for
0-4. Fuck them.
yeah, I'll count it as an 0-4, because if you're going to lose to New York Islanders in overtime, it's basically equivalent to a regulation loss, because they're OT merchants. They're fucking bums. They're losers. I can't stand them. Let's get into the Big Bad Bruin, because before I piss myself off. Kyle, take it away.
Oh, man. I'm going to go with Jordan Oesterle. He played 1 game this week of the 4. He recorded 1 shot and 1 block. And he gets the vote simply for existing and not being Nikita Zadorov. I'm going to say he's McAvoy's best partner of the year. They were smart to return him to the lineup. They weren't smart enough to play the 2 together. And then they immediately removed him from the lineup. And then for tonight's game, put Wotherspoon in and made Wotherspoon play with McAvoy, because that makes perfect sense. Yep. So my Big Bad Bruin is Jordan Oesterle, because, 0-4 ass team.
Vogel is not here with us tonight. He had an element that he needed to attend to. That's the best way I gotta say an element. He's gonna go back and watch that, and he goes, "What the fuck do you mean by an element?" He had something into which he had to attend to tonight, so unfortunately he's not here with us. But he did leave us his Big Bad Bruin, and it's not really a Bruin, but he is associated with the Bruins, Adam Pellerin. And he said just because he is a hell of an interview guy, and he did a hell of a job the entire time the Bruins were on a road trip, because to be fair, I also had difficulty picking a Big Bad Bruin this week with 4 losses. It was hard, but I will give it to David Pastrnak. He had 4 goals, 1 assist, and I believe that actually put him at just a point per game player. This as of tonight, because I think he was 2 points behind that, so or a point behind that, and I think he's there. That's really the only good thing, I guess. I don't know. He's starting to heat up, and he's starting to perform, so I'll give him that. I like Jordan Oesterle just because I'm not picking anyone else on the defense. Can't pick Korpisalo. Can't pick Swayman. Should I just write Frederick?
No. I'm gonna go in and edit the document to take that out of there.
Oh, really? Oh, come on. Right in Trent Frederick. Frederick for being a bum. We also have the updated percentages for our in-season competition, ladies and gentlemen. We're still actually looking for friendly and reasonable punishments for the loser of this competition to do at the end of the season. As we stated before, that this competition is revolved around who can have the best prediction record in terms of percentage by the end of the regular season. And right now, I'm currently in first place with a 69.1%. Giggity.
Nice.
Yeah, man. The Higsaw is in second place with 61.3%. You were actually the only one that had an even record this week. You went 50% on your predictions. I was hoping it was going to either be you or myself that was going 50%. I was hoping it was me. And Vogel is in dead last, the vibe captain, not vibing so hot right now with a whopping 53.9%. He's dropping. He went 0 for 4. He didn't get one right. And he's going to be pissed about it.
Wait, how did he go 0 for 4? Did he have them sweeping?
He had the sweep. And I didn't understand it, but he was like, guys, I'm the vibe captain. I'm going big or I'm going home. So they should have won 2 of these games. They should have won 2.
In theory, you would think that if you're rooted for a sweep, you'd at least get like one of them right. So I guess I can't fault them entirely there. But.
Which is crazy because both of the ones that you got were losses, and the one that I got was a loss. So I don't know if that's a bad omen, but you know,
it's not a good omen.
It's not good. Yeah. I'm not happy about that.
Yeah, my scientists are working on it. But the hypothesis is that this team might not be that good.
Oh, we do. We got that.
They're crunching the numbers right now. Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
How long do we wait for the birthday?
I'm waiting for the facts to come through.
Did they give me an update?
Here we go. It says not good.
Boo! You suck. You suck.
Oh man, yeah, not a good 3-1, dude, not good. Let's end this on a high note.
They're sneaky getting themselves. Yeah, all right, yeah. We don't need to drop it.
Let's end it on a high note. Let's not be like what was it? The Debbie. You ever watch SNL? Debbie Downer.
Yeah,
her. Yeah. We can't be Debbie Downers. We can't do that. She's from Boston, right?
Was that Rachel Dratch?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
she's awesome. The week look ahead. Tuesday we have Edmonton at home. Then we're at Tampa Bay, and then we're at Florida.
So an easy week is what you're saying.
Oh, dude, that's a phenomenal week. What are you kidding? Are you kidding me? That's great. By the way, Tampa Bay has 5 or 6 games in hand against us, and we're only, I think, 2 points ahead of them as it currently sits. So
2 points.
I'm shitting bricks.
They somehow managed to match our skid. So when the first 3 games of this week that we lost, they also managed to go on a 3-game skid and gained no ground. I don't know if they played today or not.
Yeah, it's still not great though. It's not great. But the East is super tight. You can't play down to anybody right now. You gotta elevate. You gotta play. You basically gotta play playoff hockey in January, which is kind of crazy. Happy New Year, everybody. We got Edmonton
from
at home.
January to the end of the season, basically.
Basically, or until if you make the playoffs even further, you got to go. Although it's no matter what. Edmonton I have as a win. They were close last time. It was in Edmonton's barn, and if it wasn't for McDavid, I think the Bruins walked away with that as a win. I'm gonna call it a win. I think they were close. If Korpisalo gets the net, I might as well just change it to a loss. But Swayman should get that one. They were close last time. Vogel has it as a loss.
I also have it as a loss.
Ugh, disappoint me. Have some faith, will you? At Tampa, which is Thursday, I believe that's a 7:00 game. Vogel has it as a win. I have it as a win. I just feel like it's a team that has, I don't know if they're fake, but we shouldn't sleep on them. But I feel like the Bruins need to come out strong and prove a point there because I don't think they're going to beat Florida. What do you got?
I got the opposite. So I have that one as a loss just because I feel like it would be very on brand for them to snap out of it just in time to gain some ground on us.
Awesome. That actually would make sense. You might convince me to change that.
Yeah, and then just because that there's no reason to think that they should beat Florida, which I think is exactly the reason that they would pick that game to show up for. So I have that one as a win.
Vogel and I both have that as losses. I just can't see us beating Florida. I can't. Both times that we've played them thus far this year were losses, and they focused way too much on hitting them than actually playing against them. And I don't see that trend changing because they just can't. They could not get out of their own way. I think they
They're
had
just in their heads.
in my opinion, we could have easily beat them those two games if the Bruins actually focused on playing the game of hockey and not focused on getting into the penalty box, because that's what did them in every single time that they played them this past year. So I just think that trend is going to continue, and they know it, and Paul Maurice knows it, the crowd knows it, Rick knows it, and Becky Butt Cheeks from down the street fucking knows it. Like, it's whatever. We're moving on. Final thoughts, Hickey.
I want to have fun again. If we could do that, that'd be sick. So if this team could just be fun, that would be great.
That's it.
How about you?
I just
please.
I'm gonna actually end it with Vogel's typical fun fact, because I feel like he needs to be here in spirit, and in Vogel's spirit, Australia is wider than the moon, as our fun fact for today. But outside of that, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for episode 27. Go check out HiBruiNation.com for our blogs, pre-games, game recaps, and much, much more. Connect with us on Twitter, Bluesky, and through our website for your thoughts to be heard on our episodes by sending us a voice message or just message us directly. Remember, we love to see your likes, comments, and we want you to subscribe to us on all of our platforms. As always, we love you guys, and until next time, go Bruins.